واللي قاعد ندافع عنه في اكثر من 60 عام.
لا هذا تخيل
ما يكون
ليس له موجود، ليس له وجود ابدا. هم عباره عن شتات متشتت في بعض الدول العربيه، وكانوا يسمون الكنعانيين او العماليق او لها اسماء متعدده جدا، حتى ان الايه الكريمه قالت ان فيها قوما جبارين، كان من يسميهم الجبارين. وبالتالي لا وجود لدوله اسمها فلسطين، واصر انا على ذلك.
ماشي. كان لك مقالة أبو بدر ذكرت فيها حرفيا يا ليتني كنت جنديا إسرائيليا.
نعم.
يعني هل وصل يعني الآن هو الموضوع ما عاد يعني موضوع اعتراف فقط، أنت اليوم تتمنى أن تكون جندي في هذا.
نعم.
وما تربطها بلسانك، تربطها كشباب عربي.
نعم.
يعني تربطها بأن الشباب العربي يتمنى أن يكون جنود لإسرائيل. هل هذا منطقي وواقعي؟
هذا المقال كتب عام 2006 عندما خطف الجندي الإسرائيلي جلعاد شاليط. وأمنيتي أن أكون جنديا إسرائيليا ليس المقصود بها أن أحمل السلاح وأحارب مع إسرائيل. الأمنية هي أن الدولة هي دولة إسرائيل كيف انتفضت عن بكرة أبيها لتدافع عن جندي واحد إسرائيلي. فأنا أقول يا ليتني كنت جنديا حتى تدافع عني دولتي. بالله عليك لو كان هذا الجندي في دولة عربية دون أن أسمي دولة،
المقال موجود،
دون أن أسمي دولة معينة، هل كانت أمته أو كانت دولته أو كان رئيس دولته حينتفض نفس الانتفاضة الذي انتفضته إسرائيل لآلاف القتلى من الدول العربية ولا أحد يهتم بهم؟ أنا الحقيقة أتحفظ على كلمة تطبيع، وأرجو أن نسميها التعايش السلمي مع دولة إسرائيل.
وهذا اللي ما عملوا به مصر والأردن.
بالضبط، هو تعايش سلمي.
وشنو كان نتيجته؟
استفادة الطرفين.
فهل نحن اليوم كعرب وكمسلمين يجب أن نقف مع الإسرائيليين ضد حزب الله؟
هناك مقولة لدولة أو لرئيس دولة خليجية كبرى تقول لدي استعداد أن أتحالف مع الشيطان ضد الكيان الفارسي.
طيب،
والشيطان هنا يقصد به إسرائيل،
واضح.
لأن هم يسموه إسرائيل الشيطان. ولكن أنا أقول لماذا لا أتعايش سلميا مع إسرائيل وأتعاون معها على رد عدوي الكبير اللي هو النظام الفارسي.
والكيان الصهيوني ضد إيران؟
النظام الفارسي يتباهى بأنه احتل 4 عواصم عربية وسيحتل ال5. هل قالت إسرائيل هذا الكلام أو تباهت بأنها احتلت شيء؟ لم تتباهى، لأنها لم تحتل، هي جاءت إلى بلدها. أما الكيان الفارسي الإيراني فهو كيان مغتصب. أنا أؤيد أن يكون هناك تحالف ثلاثي بين إسرائيل والدول الخليجية العربية وأمريكا لمحو شيء اسمه حزب الله من الوجود، محو كامل لا تقوم له قائمة.
Hi, this is Karen. I'm an Armenian. I was born in the States, and I'm making this video mainly in rebuttal to a video I saw last week by an Australian Arab who claims Palestinian roots, and she had a lot to say that was not true, and I wanted to rebut it. It was disturbing to many, and it's been in my mind, so here I am. And she kept talking about ethnic cleansing, murderous expulsions, and I don't know what she's talking about. It's all lies. There is no ethnic cleansing, never was. Murderous expulsions, that is what the Muslims are trying to do to the Jews. They want to intimidate them to leave, but they will never leave because Israel is historical Jewish land. And one of the points she said is that today's Israel is not biblical Israel. Yes, she's right. It's not biblical Israel. This is the only thing that she got right, because biblical Israel was much larger. It contained Jordan, parts of Lebanon, and parts of Syria, and it was huge. And you know what? It will be restored one day. The Lord will assure that. She said Israel started with terror and continues with terror. It's all lies. In the 20s and 30s, the Muslims used to kill Jews. Okay, this is before pre-48 days, okay? This is when supposedly they coexisted. There was peace. No, there wasn't. There wasn't peace. And it wasn't until 1938 when the Jews finally said enough is enough, and Irgun, Jewish militants, popped up and started killing the Arabs and the Muslims. And I'm not saying that was right either. Neither was right. But this is mentioned to prove the fact that there was no coexistence in peace before, and it wasn't all hunky-dory. And this is why the British wanted to get rid of the British mandate of Palestine, which was British controlled. And I stress that because the Arabs of today say Israel stole Palestine from them. No, I'm sorry, it was never Arab ruled. I repeat, BMP was British ruled. It was never Arab ruled. You've got to get over that. This is a propaganda lie from the pit of hell that Arabs keep repeating, and it is a lie, strictly that. The other thing she said is Israel was created against Judaism. Excuse me? God himself said, I will bring you back to the land. Not to Argentina, but to the land. Where is the land? The land is Israel. And yes, of course, like I mentioned, it was much bigger before. So this is definitely with Judaism, not against Judaism. And Zionism, she said, is an insult to Christianity. This is false. All Bible-believing Christians, as I am, are Zionists. Period. I forgot to mention at the beginning, I am a Christian. I'm not a Jew, and I'm not a Muslim. No comment on that last statement. Arabs defending themselves is incitement to violence, is teaching hatred, defending themselves. No, I'm sorry. It's all part of their ploy, and the way that it's madness. That's what it is, actually. I personally think it's satanic, stemmed from their religion, but Arabs are not defending themselves in the Arab occupied territories of Israel. What they're doing is they're teaching their children violence, hatred, slaughter. Every evil that you could think of is okay for them. And it's wrong. And what they're doing nowadays is the children are going into different parts of Jerusalem, Gush Etzion, all over Israel, and trying to kill Jews. And you know what? Sometimes they are. Sometimes they're failing. And the times that they fail, supposedly they have planted knives. Oh, really? Well, what about the times that they succeed? Anyways, it's all a bunch of bullshit, and it's wrong what they're doing. And I stand with the Jews. Stop killing Jews. And what else did she say? She said so many dumb things. She said that the European Jews came to Israel. You know what? Jews are Jews. 850,000 Jews were expelled from the neighboring countries all over, and they came to Israel. What were they supposed to do? Where were they supposed to go? Go to Argentina? No. Israel is historically Jewish land, and they've been wanting the BMP to give it to them, and that's what they did. They gave a partition to the Jews and to the Arabs. And the Jews said yes, created Israel, and the Arabs said no. Tough luck, you lost it, and you lost more. And you know what? Get over it. It's old, and there's a limitation on this. It's been nearly 70 years. Get over it. Israel is Israel. It was, it is, and it always will be. Blessed be his name. Thank you very much.
In just the last few days, there was a terror attack in the heart of Tel Aviv, a massacre in Orlando. In France, a Muslim jihadist lunatic went onto Facebook Live and executed a mother and father in front of their 3-year-old. In Amarillo, Texas, there was a hostage situation, but thank God it was in Texas, because those Texans took him out. They call it a workplace accident, but the guy's name just happened to be Mohammed. And all along, President Barack Obama and John Kerry in the U.S. administration refused to call it Islamic terrorism. President Obama came out with a statement explaining why he refuses to call it Islamic terrorism. And what I want to do is I want to break this speech apart and bring a little bit of clarity on what really is going on.
For a while now, the main contribution of some of my friends on the other side of the aisle have made in the fight against ISIL.
Well, here, President Obama, is your first mistake. We're not at war with ISIS or ISIL, as you call them. We're at war with radical Islam. We're at war with Al-Qaeda. We're at war with the Hezbollah. We're at war with the Hamas. We are at war with these radical Islamic movements, not with an organization.
For not using the phrase radical Islam. That's the key, they tell us. We can't beat ISIL unless we call them radical Islamists. What exactly would using this label accomplish?
What will it accomplish? Well, if you know you're at war with radical Islam, you won't give the Ayatollah $150 billion because you know what you're at war with. America, under your leadership, has become the largest global sponsor of terror around the world because you think you're fighting against some sort of hate crimes or you're fighting against one particular organization.
What exactly would it change?
If you recognize we're at war with radical Islam, you can wage war against radical Islam. If you don't recognize we're at war with radical Islam, you just may end up giving them billions of dollars and help fund their terror activities around the world. If you don't know who you're fighting, how can you win the war?
Would it make ISIL less committed to trying to kill Americans?
Stop saying ISIL. Al-Qaeda killed you in 9/11, and the Hamas would kill you if they could. It's not about labeling them. It's actually about understanding entire foreign policy in the Middle East.
Would it bring in more allies? Is there a military strategy that is served by this?
Indeed, there is a military strategy when going to war. And you know what you've done to your allies? You've alienated all of them or backstabbed the other. Do you remember Egypt? They were an ally of the United States of America. They were not radical Muslims, but you encouraged the Muslim Brotherhood to overthrow their government. Israel has never felt more separated from the United States. So your allies you've alienated and your enemies you've funded. That is not smart.
Calling a threat by a different name does not make it go away.
Calling it a name won't make it go away? Very good. So let's not call them anything. Let's not say anything. Let's not do anything. Let's go out for ice cream and coffee. It's not about calling them a name. It's about actually understanding what's happening in the Islamic world in the Middle East. Because, folks, it's happening. We've been saying this for years. The Muslims are coming to America, and some of them, not all of them, but some of them are going to kill you.
There's not been a moment in my 7.5 years as president where we have not been able to pursue a strategy because we didn't use the label radical Islam.
It is so brilliant how you're trying to minimize this into a label or not a label. Yes, there hasn't been a moment you haven't pursued a strategy, but all of your strategies have been counterproductive, in fact, dangerous. You've given the Ayatollah in Iran billions of dollars and paved a way for them to achieve a nuclear bomb. Do you know what happened if that killer in Orlando would have had a nuclear bomb? He wouldn't have just killed 50 people in Orlando. He would have detonated it in Manhattan and in Los Angeles and killed millions of people if only he could. And you know who your greatest ally is in fighting global jihad? Israel. And do you know what you've done to Israel? You've backstabbed us and thrown us under the bus time and time again. What's going on spiritually in the world? Here are my thoughts. Here we have Israel, and we are right now in a clash of civilizations. We are in the middle of a clash of ideas, a spiritual war. On the West, on one hand, we have a postmodern world, which really, if we were to talk in biblical terms, we would just call them pagans, meaning one person has one God, one person has another God. We can switch gods. There's no real truth. What's ultimate truth? There are multiple gods, multiple forces. Everyone has their own reality. There's no borders. There's no good. There's no ultimate evil. A boy can be a girl can be a boy. Let's build them all bathrooms. It doesn't really matter. Here we have one society that has no truth. On the other side, in the East, what do we have? We have people from the jihadist movement that are declaring they have ultimate truth. And in their ultimate truth, they're going to kill the infidel. They're going to kill the homosexual. They're going to stone the adulterers. And then you know what happens? The people in the West say, you see what happens when you have ultimate truth? You end up with people like jihadist John that are chopping off people's heads. And here they are coming now claiming ultimate truth, but really worshiping ultimate evil, worshiping death, worshiping child sacrifice. Yes, today it's not to Molech in fire, it's to Allah with a suicide strap. One way or the other, they're worshiping evil. And in the West, they worship nothing. And so here we have Israel stuck in between them all. And what is our message? We believe there is an ultimate truth. There's an ultimate reality. Within the fabric of creation itself, the Creator, who is the creation, who is one with the creation, said there is a way the world was meant to function, a perfect life, which is based on justice and compassion, righteousness and goodness. And we are here to bring that light to the world, to those they say there is no truth, and to those that have the wrong truth. And then what are they going to say now, that the Orlando attack was because of the 1967 borders and the occupation of the West Bank? Is that what happened to that family in France because of the occupation of the West Bank? No, folks, we're in a spiritual war, and they're coming after the Jew, and they're coming after the Christian, and you know what, Berkeley? They're coming after you too. They're coming after all of us. And you know what the Jews in Israel are waiting for? We're waiting for you to leave, because soon November will be coming, and like all empires and emperors that have risen and fallen, you will be gone and the Jews will be in Israel. Folks, I'm sorry I can't analyze this speech anymore. I'm just getting too nauseous listening to your president spew his nonsense. Anyway, I hope this helps. Let him not distract us from the real issues. Shalom from Jerusalem. Hey folks, I just finished filming that video. If you like that video, then check out our podcast on www.thelandofisrael.com, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All right, see ya. Shalom.
The power of your voice is an amazing thing. So one, changing the culture of the UN is very important. And the way you change the culture of the UN is the United States tells them what we're not going to put up with. We start to change the culture to what we should be talking about. And then we actually act on what we say. I wear heels. It's not for a fashion statement. It's because if I see something wrong, we're going to kick them every single time. So how are we kicking? We're kicking by, number one, putting everybody on notice, saying that if you have our back, we're going to have the backs of our friends, but our friends need to have our back too. If you challenge us, be prepared for what you're challenging us for, because we will respond. The next thing we did was we said, the days of Israel bashing are over. We have a lot of things to talk about. There are a lot of threats to peace and security, but you're not going to take our number one democratic friend in the Middle East and beat up on them. And I think what you're seeing is they're all backing up a little bit. The Israel bashing is not as loud. They didn't know exactly what I meant outside of giving the speech, so we showed them. So when they decided to try and put a Palestinian in one of the highest positions that had ever been given at the UN, we said no, and we had him booted out. That doesn't mean he wasn't a nice man. That doesn't mean he wasn't good to America. What it means is, until the Palestinian Authority comes to the table, until the UN responds the way they're supposed to, there are no freebies for the Palestinian Authority anymore. So then they tested us again. And a ridiculous report, the Falk report, came out. I don't know who the guy is or what he's about, but he's got serious problems. Goes and compares Israel to an apartheid state. So the first thing we do is we call the Secretary General and say, this is absolutely ridiculous. You have to pull it. The Secretary General immediately pulled the report, and then the director has now resigned. So for anyone that says you can't get anything done at the UN, they need to know there's a new sheriff in town. Just in common sense terms, if you want to boycott North Korea, I get it. If you want to have divestments and pull something away from Syria, do it. If you want to talk about other issues that we're dealing with, I can understand that. But Israel? You know, and number one, I appreciate all the support and kindness and everything that you've given to me. But all I did was tell the truth. And if you want to continue to support me, which I greatly appreciate, understand that by telling the truth and showing the power of your voice and putting action behind it, there's nothing we can't change. So with the BDS movement that we were able to stop in South Carolina, we're going to continue to take that to the UN and make sure that they understand that is not what we need to be focused on.
My name is Jamie Mighty. I'm a student at the University of the Witwatersrand in South Africa. I was a South African University's debating champion. I was even an African debating champion. And one of the big talking points on campus is around the Israel-Palestine issue. The rhetoric is not a positive rhetoric. There isn't even an understanding of what Zionism is. It's a caricature, like a cartoon, a version of the ideology, which is not an accurate depiction of the ideology. It's used to otherize or to villainize. So if you are Jewish, you're a bad guy. And if you are sympathetic to Jewish students, you're a bad guy. When I started actually articulating my own thoughts on Israel is when I got the biggest attacks in my life from different communities that are within the BDS movement. So the villainization and the attempts to silence you or to suffocate a differing opinion are always concerning, because you kind of have a one-sided rhetoric. You got to realize that a lot of the BDS rhetoric is against the actual existence of the state of Israel. And if you listen carefully, you begin to notice that these particular movements aren't for how do you have two states or two peoples coexisting peacefully, but are actually about how do you expunge the state of Israel. And for me, that's already a problem. What I've done is always to confront the fiction with the fact. I've been to Israel, I've been to Jerusalem, I've been to Ramallah, to Bethlehem. I've seen the context in the state of Israel. The citizens have equal rights. You can form a political party, you can vote and be voted for, and you can live wheresoever you can afford and desire to live. There is a legitimate right, morally, historically, archaeologically, legally, for the existence of a state of Israel.
What is happening in this legislation does not constitute a Muslim ban. only 8% of the world's Muslims are going to be affected. And this is actually a geopolitical decision. We are eliminating immigration for the time being, for a few months, from failed, failing, and most failed states, Somalia, as The Economist calls it. So this is a rational move. And I thank President Trump in his first week for beginning to safeguard the lives and circumstances of Muslims not only in the United States but around the world. The first news I had of this Muslim ban came to me from Pakistani minority Muslims who celebrated the fact that draft legislation includes banning those who persecute minorities and commit honor violence. That is a very profound value and we recommend it.
I cannot think of anything more foolish than to say that you want to have any kind of divestment or sanctions or whatever, or boycott against a country that, when all is said and done, is the only democracy in the region, is the only place that has, in my view, a pluralist, open society. You know, why boycott Israel? It's and by the way, I think there's some misunderstanding over here about it. The supporters of this so-called boycott are really just a bunch of, you know, corduroy jacketed academics from, you know, lefty. Not anything wrong with wearing a corduroy jacket, I hasten to say, but they are by and large lefty academics who have no real standing in the matter, and I think are highly unlikely to be influential on Britain. And this is a very, very small minority in our country who are calling for this. So bear that in mind.
وجودي بين سارق الأرض وبين صاحبها الذي يدافع عن حقه فيها. قد تطول سنوات الاحتلال، ولكن الفلسطينيين يؤمنون أن هذه الأرض حتما ستعود لهم. من قرية النبي صالح قضاء رام الله المحتلة نبال فرسخ رؤيا.
لإسرائيل، لإسرائيل،
وأن حضارة المستوطنين هذه حتما ستخرج من هذه الأرض الفلسطينية وحتما ستلقى نور الحرية. والدليل على ذلك أن هذه الكاميرا التي تفضح وجودهم اللا شرعي بهذه الأرض الفلسطينية هي أيضا يواجهونها ويحاولون. هذه هي القذارة بالفعل، هذه هي قذارة إسرائيل والمستوطنين الإسرائيليين الذين لا حق لهم.
It's time for final thoughts. We've got radical Islamic terrorists ready, willing, and honored to kill us on planes, trains, and automobiles with knives, guns, explosives, and trucks. And we've got federal judges, top Democrats, and bleeding heart kumbaya liberals placing Islamic sensitivity, diversity options, and political correctness over reality, American lives, and national security. See the problem, or do I have to spell it out for you? For the next few days, investigators and counterterrorism experts will debate whether Saifullah Saipov, the New York City vehicular jihadi, is a caliphate soldier or just inspired by ISIS. Does it matter? If he shouted Allah Akbar, the motive and inspiration are crystal clear. Better question is, why the heck was he here in the first place? He wasn't airlifted in by ISIS. We let him in the front door. We rolled out the red carpet for him just like we did the 9/11 hijackers. And whose fault is that? Whose policies make that the standard? Well, take a wild guess. Authorities say Saipov came to the United States 7 years ago from Uzbekistan, and Fox News has confirmed he came here under what is called the Diversity Visa Program, which offers a lottery for people from countries with few immigrants in America. Yep, he was issued a green card by President Obama's DHS in 2010. Isn't that something? Did you know nearly 1.8 million green cards were issued to nationals of predominantly Muslim countries from the September 11th attacks in 2001 through 2015? Now, your liberal friends might tell you this is in the spirit of inclusion, love, tolerance, and diversity, but here's a reality check. ISIS and the dozen-plus other radical Islamic terrorist groups exploit this diversity in blissful ignorance and use it to kill and attack Americans. Got it? It's called civilization jihad, and it's not coming, it's here. It's not Islamophobic to point out the radical problem within Islam. It's reality, and it's right in front of our faces, and it's not going anywhere. So either we learn to confront it, name it, and keep it the hell out, or we sit back, bite our tongues, twiddle our thumbs, hold hands, and pretend evil doesn't exist. It's our choice. What's it gonna be, America? We tried the blind-eye, politically correct BS for 8 years, and look where it's gotten us. Our elected officials have a duty to keep Americans safe in our own dang country. President Trump gets it and has done everything he can to put America, Americans, and our safety first. Yet, we still have these federal judges and Democrats who prefer political correctness and feelings to our safety and national security. Enough. How many more Americans have to die before we throw away this PC garbage and understand the threat? Wake up. Those are my final thoughts from LA. God bless you, God bless America, and take care.
מחויכים ובמצב רוח מרומם הובאו בזה אחר זה 5 הנערים שהואשמו בהריגתה של הילדה הקטנה אדל ביטון כדי לשמוע את גזר דינם. חרטה לא ממש הייתה שם.
כל העולם זורקים אבנים, איפה שתלכי זה אינתיפאדה עממית. זה לא אצלנו ולא אצל בכפר הזה או בעיר הזה או איפה שמה, כולה.
במסגרת עסקת טיעון שחשפנו בחודש שעבר, הודו והורשעו 5 הנערים במותה של אדל. זה לא מנע ממשפחותיהם להמשיך ולהחיש את מעורבותם.
הלכתי לבית חולים, היא מתה בדלקות ריאות. הילדה היא מתה מן התאונה, לא מן אבנים, לא ממשהו. והאח שלי היה בבית.
הפיגוע הזה שזכה לכינוי פיגוע האבנים התרחש במרס 2013 והוא נחרט היטב בזיכרון של כולנו. אדל הקטנה נפצעה אנושות כשישבה במושב האחורי במכונית שבה נהגה עימה בדרך לביתם ביישוב יקיר שבשומרון. כאשר אבנים הושלחו לעברם, עקב כך התנגשה האם במסעית שסטתה ממסלולה גם היא בשל יידוי אבנים לעברה. 2 אחר כך נפטרה אדל בבית החולים בתום מאבק עקשני. במסגרת גזר הדין היום נשלחו האחראים למותה על 15 שנות מאסר.
הגיע הזמן שהמדינה שלנו תיתן מאסרי עולם, תיתן עונש מוות לאותם מחבלים, אפילו שהם קטינים. זה באמת ברירת מחדל. אמרנו בכל זאת אנחנו ניקח את העסקת טיעון הזאת, שאנחנו נדע שהם נמצאים תחת סורג ובריח.
יותר מ3 שנים עברו מאז הוגש כתב האישום נגד ה5, לאחר מותה של אדל תוקן כתב האישום, ובמשך חודשים ארוכים התלבטו בפרקליטות הצבאית, עד שלבסוף אומצה עסקת הטיעון, שמציבה רף ענישה גבוה בהתחשב בעובדה שמדובר בקטינים.
מדובר בקטין שעכשיו נשלח לתקופה ממושכת למאסר של 15 שנה. היא תוצאה מאוד מאוד קשה, במיוחד שמדובר בקטין שלא הייתה לו כל כוונה לפגוע ברכוש או באנשים.
המקרה החמור והמצער ממחיש את החומרה והסיכונים בהשלכת אבנים לעבר כלי רכב, תופעה שהפכה לרעה חולה באזור.
גם את האווירה ששוררת עכשיו באזור חייבה אותנו להגיע להסדר הזה.
רגע לפני שבני משפחתה מציינים את יום השנה הראשון למותה של אדל הקטנה, ונוכח גל הטרור הנוכחי, אדווה אימה מבקשת להעביר מסר ברור.
אנחנו כאובים, אבל אנחנו בהחלט מעדיפים להתעסק במאחד ולא במפריד. אנחנו הקמנו את עמותת אדל, אני דואג לאחר, ובזה אני מנתבת את כוחי.
חברים וחברות היקרים, אני פונה אליכם ומבקשת לחזק את ממשלת ישראל ואת העומד בראשה מר בנימין נתניהו. אנחנו חייבים להוכיח לעולם שאנחנו ערבים ישראלים ויהודים גאים, מתאחדים כולנו על אדמת המולדת ושמחים להשתייך למדינת ישראל היקרה והאהובה ששומרת על זכויותינו וזהותנו. אנו נראה לעולם שישראל היא מדינה קטנה בשטחה אך גדולה במעשיה, בזכות המאמצים של מנהיגיה הנאמנים לשמור ולהצמיח ולהקים ולטפח כל חלקה. אנו נוכיח לעולם שישראל חזקה מכל האתגרים והקשיים שהיא עוברת. רק באמצעות נחישות נעביר מסר של חוזק וביטחון, ובזכות בניה הנאמנים ומפלגת השלטון שלנו בראשות ראש הממשלה מר בנימין נתניהו, שנבחר על ידי רוב העם והוא עושה את מירב המאמצים לשרת את המולדת. אנו מודים לראש הממשלה מר בנימין נתניהו על כל מה שעשית ומה שעוד תעשה למעננו, בלי הבדל גזע או דת. אנחנו מחזקים את ידיך, אדוני ראש הממשלה, וסומכים עליך שתדע לעשות את הדבר הנכון בזמן הנכון. אני קוראת לכם, בואו נשכיל להתאחד למען מטרה משותפת, והיא המלחמה בטרור בכל המבקשים רעתנו. אני גם מבקשת מכולם לחזק את ראש הממשלה מר בנימין נתניהו ורעייתו הנפלאה גברת שרה נתניהו. הם זוג מדהים, עם נשמה אמיתית, עם נתינה אינסופית. כמו שידוע, יש משפט, אחרי איש מצליח עומדת אישה גדולה. האישה הזו היא גברת שרה נתניהו. התמיכה שלנו בראש הממשלה מר בנימין נתניהו חשובה לא רק לראש הממשלה, אלא למדינת ישראל. אני אישית, שרה זובי, ערבייה מוסלמית ציונית, מביעה את תמיכתי הגדולה בראש הממשלה מר בנימין נתניהו ורעייתו, כי אתה הפטריוט הגדול המביא גאווה לכולם. אתה היחיד שיכול לנווט את הסירה הגדולה שעליה כולנו יושבים. אנחנו לא מתייחסים לניש התקשורתי והפצת השקרים, לא מחליפים ראש ממשלה באיומים ובשטיפת מוח. הם לא ימצאו כלום, כי אין כלום. הם מחפשים שלמות, אין בן אדם מושלם, אבל אתה, אדוני ראש הממשלה, הכי קרוב לשלמות. مهما حاولوا وما زالوا يحاولون أن يلفقوا التهم لن يجدوا شيئا، لأنه لا يوجد شيء وأساس لادعاءاتهم. إن كنتم تبحثون عن الكمال في هذا الكون فإنه لا يوجد إنسان كامل، لكنه هو أقرب للكمال. מאחלת לך, אדוני ראש הממשלה, עוד שנים רבות של עשייה למען עם ישראל, ושהשם יגן עליך ועל משפחתך וישמור לנו את מדינת ישראל ואת עם ישראל. أسأل رب القدير أن يحفظك وعائلتك وأن يحفظ دولة إسرائيل وشعب إسرائيل. אני מאחלת לכם ולכל עם ישראל המון בריאות, אהבה, שלווה ובכה ואחווה, ביטחון ואמונה בצדקת הדרך. לסיום, תזכרו, אין לנו מדינה אחרת ואין לנו מנהיג אחר. תחי מדינת ישראל ועם ישראל חי וקיים.
Assalamu alaikum, shalom alaikum, Ahmed al-Miligi, the Egyptian peace activist. 3 years ago, when I was in the United States, an American Jewish friend of mine, Nathan, I miss you, man, he invited me to attend the Seder at one of the synagogue in Washington, D.C. So I was confused. I said yes, I accepted the invitation right away, but I was very confused on my way that I'm an Egyptian, and the Passover is all about celebrating the freedom and of the Jews from the Pharaoh, from Egypt. And I'm an Egyptian, so I didn't know how the congregation will deal with me. I didn't know when I go what I'm gonna say at the synagogue at that night at the Seder. But when I went there, Rabbi Sonny, I really have a huge respect for this amazing man. He treated me like family. He introduced me to the congregation. The congregation, everyone was hugging me and welcoming me, and they were super happy and teaching me and walking me through the rituals of the Seder, as if I'm one of them. I didn't feel like a stranger. I didn't feel like I'm outside of my country. Actually, I felt as if I'm home. Anyway, today, April the 6th, 2016, I have managed, alhamdulillah, to raise the necessary funds, which was $2,000, to give it to the Egyptian Jewish community leader, Magda Haroun. It should be in her bank account by now, for the Seder. Yes, I raised the necessary and the needed money for the Seder in Egypt. Not just the money. I even, alhamdulillah, thank God, and I'm so proud, I'm so happy, I'm so emotional about this. There's a rabbi too, an American rabbi, a good friend of mine, who didn't hesitate. Because unfortunately in Egypt, the Egyptian Jewish community is around 7 or 8 people, and most of them are old ladies, and we don't have rabbis here in Egypt. So now, the Seder in 2016 will have a rabbi and will have enough kosher food, and inshallah, by God's will, it will be a beautiful Seder in the Egyptian synagogue in Cairo for the Egyptian Jewish community. And I am Ahmed al-Maliki, the Egyptian Muslim, the peace activist. And this is the beauty of my work. I love it. I'm so proud of what I did. I just came from the synagogue. I didn't change my clothes. I'm too emotional. I'm so happy. I did something, and it has a meaning. It has a big meaning. We are one. We are cousins. We are family. So please, like I keep saying, reach out to one another. When Nathan reached out to me and invited me to the Seder, look what happened today. I helped to make the Seder happen, alhamdulillah, thank God, in Egypt, at the synagogue in Adli Street. God bless Egypt. God bless the peacemakers, the people who works for peace, the people who are true in the heart. Alhamdulillah, I'm happy, I'm emotional, I'm proud, and I'm sharing this with you. And please share this video, share this message, so we can inspire and give hope to our people, to reach out to one another, listen to one another, understand one another. Happy holidays to all my Jewish friends in the world. And please don't thank me. And to my most beloved friend, Bad Zion Saskine Sachs, I hope you're doing better now. Thank you. Shukran. Toda Rabba. Happy holidays. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom alaikum. The Egyptian peace activist, Ahmed al-Maliki. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for inviting me to this very, very important conference here today. One important reason why there is no peace in the Middle East can be summarized tragically in two letters, UN. That building, dedicated in theory to peace, has facilitated terrorism, stood idly by genocide, given a platform to Holocaust deniers, and disincentivized the Palestinians from negotiating a reasonable two-state solution. Just think back, to summarize what others before me have said, think back to one dramatic year, 1975, when between 2 and 3 million Cambodians were being murdered by Pol Pot. The United Nations devoted all of its time to debating whether Zionism was racism and did not spend one single session in trying to stop the bloodshed in Cambodia. Just think about that. Think about what happened several decades later when genocides were taking place in Rwanda and Darfur, and the United Nations was debating the building of houses on the West Bank. Just think of how often the rights of women, the rights of gays, the rights of minorities have been ignored because the United Nations has been able to say, we have no time for these minor rights. We have to focus on the major oppressor of the world, namely Israel. The United Nations has encouraged anti-Semitism, racism, and bigotry by giving its imprimatur to that disgraceful word called Durban, which will go down in history next to another city called Nuremberg. And the idea that two such beautiful cities, Durban and Nuremberg, have been so profaned by actions and words that have been taken and spoken in their name is a simple disgrace. I want to focus on the fact that the United Nations has for 40 years rewarded Palestinian terrorism by enhancing the status of Palestine while Arafat and Hamas were openly advocating and implementing the murder of Jewish civilians as a matter of governmental policy. This was not an accident. This was the policy of the Palestine Liberation Organization, of Fatah, of Hamas. And yet, while they were murdering and killing and violating the Charter of the UN, we saw gradual, incremental, but very important steps to the point where the Palestinians virtually own the United Nations. You know, you can't even get into the United Nations if you are a representative of some oppressed group, whether it be in Tibet or in other parts of the world. They won't even let them into the front door because the building is essentially occupied by interests of the Palestinians in statehood. The United Nations has become the main advocacy arm for one group of people, the Palestinians, and thereby neglecting the rights of so many other people, whether they be the Kurds or the Armenians or the Tatars or the Chechens or so many others who have been brutally repressed. And now there will be a vote at the United Nations. We don't know its exact terms, we don't know exactly where, we don't know exactly when, but that vote will take place, and dozens of countries that do not recognize Israel's right to exist, I'm not talking about as the nation state of the Jewish people, which the Palestinians don't recognize, I'm talking about not recognizing Israel's right to exist. These nations will cast a vote, and the vote will be described as implementing the two-state solution. How can you implement a two-state solution if so many of the people voting don't recognize the existence of the other state? These countries which do not recognize Israel are not voting for a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. They are voting for a final solution to the Jewish state problem. And that is the truth. I submit here today that no state that refuses to recognize Israel should have its vote counted at the United Nations in recognizing Palestine, because the vote purports to be part of a vote in favor of a two-state solution. So how can Saudi Arabia cast a vote? How can so many other countries cast a vote in favor of a two-state solution if they are unwilling even to vote for one state that is supposed to be part of that two-state solution? What incredible hypocrisy. The United Nations, while demanding far too much of Israel, never, ever makes any demands on the Palestinian people or on the PLO or on Hamas or on any aspect of the Palestinian cause. I challenge you to find any document at the United Nations which demands of Palestine that it do A, B, C, or D. They simply don't exist. Why should the Palestinians compromise to get recognition when they are handed it by the United Nations without the need to compromise? It would be absurd for the Palestinians who have a self-interest to compromise if the UN says we'll give you everything you want without compromising. Why should the Palestinians change their proposed undemocratic constitution? How many in the UN know that the Palestinian constitution calls for one official established religion, Islam, and says that the primary source of legislation in Palestine will be Sharia law? Imagine what that will do to the right of gays. Imagine that what it will do to the right of Christians. Unfortunately or fortunately, the issue of what it will do to the rights of Jews in Palestine is moot, because the delegate of Palestine to the United Nations has recently affirmed that Palestine will be the first officially Judenrein state since the end of Nazi Germany. Now he's had to clarify and spin, and he said we only don't want Jews who are part of the occupation, or Jews who are here illegally, or Jews who are here or there or the other thing. But believe me, Jews will not be welcomed into the new Palestine as equal citizens the way that Arabs and Muslims are welcomed to Israel as equal citizens under the law. That will never happen because the United Nations does not demand it. Why should the Palestinians have to clarify their statement from their ambassador if nobody is even asking them to admit Jews? Nobody is even asking them to present a democratic front to the world. Oh, they talk about secular democracy. They talk to the West about secular democracy. That's not what they say to their own people. What they say to their own people is it will be a state governed by Sharia law, a state in which Jews will be excluded, a state, interestingly enough, which has a law of return, and it's written by the very people who condemn Israel as racist for having a law of return. The incredible hypocrisy and double standard that one hears every day emanating from that building. Why should the Palestinians negotiate the kind of land swap repeatedly offered by Israel, today most recently described in an op-ed by former Prime Minister Olmert, if they can get the pre-1967 borders as a starting point and perhaps an ending point? Let me clarify what that means. Everybody says pre-1967 borders with agreed-upon swaps. Well, let me tell you, I had a conversation with Prime Minister Fayyad about those agreed-upon swaps. And what he said was very interesting. He said, sure, we'll swap, but what is real estate? There's only one criteria for the value of real estate: location, location, location. He knows his American rules. And he said, what's the most valuable piece of real estate on the face of the earth? The center of Jerusalem, where the Western Wall exists. You want the Western Wall back? Fine. You're going to have to give us 10,000 dunim to get several dunim of holy land. You want the access route to Hebrew University, which under the pre-67 borders would belong to Palestine? Fine, we'll give you that back. You have to give us back thousands and thousands of acres. You want the Jewish quarter? You're not entitled to the Jewish quarter, they say. That's part of pre-67 Jordan. Therefore, we get the Jewish quarter. We get, the Palestinians are saying, we get the access road to Jerusalem. We get the Western Wall, and we'll maybe negotiate with you. We'll hold these three most sacred aspects of Jewish life hostage to a negotiation. Who would ever imagine starting a negotiation from that point? Starting a negotiation with Israel not even having access to its most holy places and have to bargain for that. I helped draft, right in these buildings, Resolution 242 of the UN. I was working at the time for Arthur Goldberg as an informal assistant when he was the ambassador to the United Nations. And there is no doubt that 242 contemplated territorial adjustments and changes. There was a big debate about that. The Russians and the French wanted to use the word the territories. The British and the United States said no, territories, territories. And Lyndon Johnson and the ambassador from Great Britain and Arthur Goldberg, all on the floor of the United Nations and in other venues, said Israel must make territorial adjustments to prevent a recurrence of 1967, and yet the idea of starting at the 67 borders with possible mutually agreed upon swaps. What do mutually agreed upon mean? One side doesn't agree, they're not swaps. So it ends where it begins. Why should the Palestinians give that up if they're going to get that kind of recognition? So why should the Palestinians accept a demilitarized state? Today in the op-ed by former Prime Minister Al-Merritt, he mentioned that in his offer, the state had to be demilitarized. The Palestinians are now backing away from any acceptance of that. Why? The UN hasn't insisted that it be a demilitarized state. As far as the UN's concerned, it can be a fully militarized state, with treaties with Iran, with treaties with other countries sworn to the destruction of Israel. Why should the Palestinians not insist on the absurd and immoral right to return to Israel rather than to a Palestinian state when the United Nations supports this peace-ending condition? There can be no peace if there is a full right of return, because a right of return is a way of turning Israel into yet another Islamic fundamentalist Palestinian state. President Obama got it right in his address to the United Nations yesterday. There can be no peace without mutual compromise, and the UN declarations are the enemy of compromise. This is what he said. Peace will not come through statements and resolutions at the United Nations. He might have added, because the United Nations has no moral authority when it comes to Israel or to the Jewish people or to the Jewish nation. It simply does not. How dare states such as Saudi Arabia, Cuba, Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Iran, Bahrain, Syria, Belarus, and other tyrannies too numerous to mention, but if you want to see the list, just go over to the next building. Read the list of nation states, and you'll see more than half of them fit this definition of undemocratic tyrannies. How dare those tyrannies lecture Israel about human rights? How dare states such as Turkey, that have attacked their own Kurdish minorities and Armenian minorities, and Russia, which has attacked its own Chechnyan minority. Does no one recognize the need for a single neutral standard of human rights? Have human rights now become the permanent weapon of choice for those who practice human wrongs? For shame! For shame! Tiny Israel has contributed more to the progress of the world, more to the welfare of the world, more to the hope for peace than almost all of the nations combined that sit in that building. Think of how many lives Israel has saved through its medical technology, how many Arab and Muslim lives have been saved through Israel's medical technology, how much benefit has been achieved by Israel's environmental breakthroughs, how much Israel has done to feed the hungry with its agricultural development, which it exports to the world, how much Israel has done to help those afflicted by natural disasters when Israel is always the first to be there, and the member states across the street condemn it for sending people to Haiti to do organ harvesting. And you hear that stated with seriousness by some people across the room. And yes, Israel has done more, contributed more to the world in teaching them how to fight terrorism within the rule of law. The United States is now following the Israeli model, using drones and targeted killings approved by the Israeli Supreme Court in very carefully thought through opinions. Israel has become the model of Western democracy in fighting asymmetrical warfare. All Israel wants now is to be able to beat its swords into plowshares, to turn its nuclear weapons into nuclear medicine. If that's what the Palestinians also want, let them come to the negotiating table rather than seeking a hollow victory from that body. Thank you.
The United States also remains deeply troubled by the Council's consistent, unfair, and unbalanced focus on one democratic country, Israel. No other nation is the focus of an entire agenda item. How is that a sensible priority? Right now, the Assad regime is bombing hospitals in Syria and forcing its own people to flee as refugees to neighboring countries to escape its murderous rule. Right now, in North Korea and Iran, millions of people are denied their freedoms of religion or belief, of peaceful assembly and association, and of expression. The obsession with Israel through Agenda Item 7 is the largest threat to this Council's credibility. It limits the good we can accomplish by making a mockery of this Council. The United States will oppose any effort to delegitimize or isolate Israel, not just in the HRC, but wherever it occurs. When it comes to human rights, no country should be free from scrutiny, but neither should any democratic country be regularly subjected to unfair, unbalanced, and unfounded bias. As we consider our future engagements, my government will be considering the Council's actions with an eye toward reform to more fully achieve the Council's mission to protect and promote human rights. Building greater credibility of the HRC will increase our ability to help create a better world for individuals in all countries. Together, by turning our attention consistently to the most critical human rights situations, we can make progress and help this body fulfill its mandate to make the world a better, safer place. Thank you.
We are sort of forced to go against Israel. We're being told that if you support Israel, you're supporting the killings of human rights, you're supporting the mistreatment of women, the killings of women included. And I was thinking, what can you say to encourage us to actually be pro-Israelite? Well, not technically pro-Israel, but, you know, stand for Israel, because in a sense, we can't do that. There's no way, like me as a young person, if I was to tell someone, oh, I support Israel, they would look at me and say, Liz, what's wrong with you? They're killing people. How can you support somebody that doesn't, that's killing people? How can you say, as a woman who's a feminist and supports education, women's right, human right, you know?
You have the answer right in your question. If you are supporting women's rights, if you are supporting pluralism, if you are supporting tolerance to all religions, if you are supporting rights for everyone, Israel is the place. It's the only democracy in the Middle East. Well, you have all the countries around us hanging gay people, not allowing, in Gaza, women are not allowed to go to the beach by themselves, are not allowed to ride motorcycles. So, I mean, this is the people that we need to deal with. So using slogans, using lies, saying Israel is killing people, where actually we are the victim, well, actually we are the one who's suffering from terror. And you had an opportunity to meet Israelis. You have an opportunity to meet a woman that was serving as a combat soldier. And not even in the U.S. Army you have women serving in combat. So talking about women's rights, when we can join a combat unit, when you have women serving in the parliament, where we had a women prime minister, where we have an Arab parliament members serving in the Israeli parliament. I don't know if you know, but you don't have only the Palestinians in the Palestinian Authority. Also, 20% of Israel is Israeli Arabs, and they have equal rights, where they don't have those rights in any other place in the Middle East. They can democratically be elected to the parliament. You have a Supreme Court judge, an Arab Supreme Court judge, an Arab beauty queen. I mean, I was studying in Haifa University alongside with Arab students. So saying that Israel is not a place of pluralism, it's completely lie. It's the only place in the Middle East where the Christian community is getting larger every year, while in the rest of the Middle East it's getting smaller and smaller. So you need to just put the facts on the ground and put the facts to the faces of everyone who's trying to just, show you false propaganda.
חכמים. שלום לצופים. אתם יודעים שברחבי העולם אומרים כל מיני דברים על הישראלים ויהודים. פה בסין אומרים רק דבר אחד. יהודים חכמים! ויצאנו היום במינוס 11 מעלות כדי לבחון את התופעה מקרוב. מינוס 11. ובואו נראה. זה אותו אחד שלא הסכים. הוא ברח לי פה. 以色列人，您觉得他们是犹太人是个什么样的民族呢？
犹太人是一个很优秀的民族，很聪明。我们中国的这个地冠就是从以色列学来的，
特别闯的那种吧，聪明。这犹太民族是个非常优秀的民族，好学。
做生意，不管到哪个国家、哪个地方做生意都是。
会做生意，聪明。
您觉得犹太人怎么样？
很聪明啊，很会做生意啊。哦，聪明吧，很善于经商。
是比较聪明嘛。
大脑吃苦，在一次是在二次中，叫犹太人聪明。
哦，您觉得为什么犹太人聪明呢？
反正我看书看，觉得很多书上都说那个犹太人就特别聪明嘛，我书上看到的。
因为原来学的历史嘛。
现在电视啊，包括电影啊，里面都有介绍到一些犹太人。
像什么爱因斯坦啊，这些不都是犹太人吗？智商应该比较高吧。
中国人觉得犹太人特别聪明，我觉得可能有几个原因。一个呢，就是说影视剧文化，这影视剧里面对这个犹太人的描写，那么这是一个了解。还有一个就是我说的，就是不管是在东北还是在上海，中国和犹太人是有亲身接触的。
האמת שהסינים מחזיקים בהרבה סטיגמות, כמו שהגרמנים דקנים, הצרפתים רומנטיים וההודים עובדים מאוד יפה. אתם הישראלים זכיתם, יהודים חכמים. מאיפה זה מגיע? באמת קשה לדעת. אולי אתם יודעים?
חכמים.
יהודים חכמים. יהודים חכמים. יהודים חכמים.
Back home, we're told that the Gaza Strip, which is a bit of a third rail on political football, their people are not well off because of Israel's blockade. Let me tell you the truth. Egypt has closed her border, even though they are, frankly, Arabs and Muslims and should be seen as cousins and perhaps lend a helping hand to their friends under a terrorist control. Whereas Israel has left her border open for some 800 trucks to come in daily with food supplies, bricks and mortar to help build up Gaza as well. The state of Israel supplies 70% of the electricity that is used by the people within the Gaza Strip, as well as their water supply. Important point. Israel is helping the people in Gaza so much. They have supplied them with stones and bricks and mortar to help build up their region of the world. And what's happened? Their terrorists that are charged with protecting them, with governing them, have used that bricks and mortar in order to build terror tunnels to essentially terrorize the Israeli people. So, the next time someone tells you that Israel is an occupying force who is persecuting the poor people of the Gaza Strip, remember, Israel has actually helped those people so much, very likely, to their own destruction. So bomb shelters at every corner, on every building, on every school, as well as a well-trained militia in the no man's land, and billions of dollars on defense in order to track the missiles and rockets from a terrorist group next door. That is the price that Israel is paying right now for their jihadi neighbors, while the world, including the Saudi-controlled United Nations, tells them that it's them who has to clean up their act.
علمكم ومعرفتكم يا مسلمين
اليوم المسلم يعيش في عصر من راسه إلى رجله الكل من صنع غيره. هذا من صنع نيوزيلندا، وهذا من صنع النمسا، وهذا من صنع أمريكا، وهذه من صنع سويسرا، وحذائي من صنع إيطاليا، ولباسي صوف جاي من بريطانيا. لا نملك شيئا في حياتنا يا إخواني. ليش ترفعون أيديكم في الصلاة وتقول اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين؟ ينصركم على من؟ على من؟ تنتصرون ليش؟ يكون النصر بالجهلة؟ 30% من المسلمين لا يقرؤون ولا يكتبون. ما فيش جامعة في العالم نعتز بأنها جامعة تخرج العقول والإطارات التي تسير الدنيا. نحن هم لا نقرأ ولا يكتب. أنتم في يوم جمعة اليوم ويوم رأس السنة الميلادية، هل فيكم واحد قرأ كتابا؟ اسمحوا لي، لا نقرأ ولا نعلم زوجاتنا أن تقرأ ولا أبنائنا يقرؤون. العربي يقرأ 0.79 كتابا في السنة، 3-4 كتاب. والياباني يقرأ 80 كتابا في السنة. كيف أكون أنا مثل الياباني؟ كيف أكون أنا مثل الأمريكي الأصل الذي تعلم أن يقرأ وتعلم أن يخطط وتعلم أن يباشر حياته بالدقة، بينما نحن نعيش بالعشوائية. أمة تعيش بالعواطف.
الجهود السعودية التي بذلت عام 2000 لتأسيس دولة فلسطينية، وأثمرت تلك الجهود الحقيقة بمشاركة الإدارة الأمريكية عن تقديم تصور حقيقي كامل للإدارة الفلسطينية لدولة فلسطينية مستقلة، دولة وليست سلطة كما هو اليوم، دولة عاصمتها القدس كاملة بما فيها الأحياء الأرمني واليهودي والمغربي، وأن يكون للسلطة الفلسطينية مطارات وموانئ، وأن يعود اللاجئين إلى الأراضي الفلسطينية جميعا، والفلسطينيين الذين في أراضي 48 يستطيعون أن يعودوا على دفعات لمدة 20 سنة بمعدل 1,000,000 فلسطيني يعودوا إلى أراضيهم السابقة. وفي حال عدم رغبتهم في العودة ينشأ صندوق برأس مال مبدئي 20 مليار إلى أن يصل ل 100 مليار بمشاركة سعودية، خليجية، أوروبية، يابانية. الحقيقة يعني هذا التصور أو هذا الاتفاق كان قاب قوسين أو أدنى من أن يوقع، إلا أن ياسر عرفات رفض هذا الاتفاق يعني وارتكب جريمة في حق الفلسطينيين. لماذا نحمل نحن ما ارتكبه ياسر عرفات في حق شعبه؟ في عام 39 يعني عقد أول مؤتمر للسلام في العالم. هذا المؤتمر كان يعني يتبنى القضية الفلسطينية. وقتها لم يكن لليهود الذين يعيشون في فلسطين، وهم كانوا أعداد بسيطة من يهود عرب كانوا يعيشوا في فلسطين، إلا مطالب بسيطة، وهو أن يكون لهم تمثيل في البرلمان للدولة الفلسطينية القادمة. رفضت هذه الفكرة، ثم بعد أقل من 10 سنوات أعلن عن التقسيم. أيضا ذلك التقسيم كان على حدود بسيطة لدولة إسرائيلية صغيرة، ورفض هذا التقسيم للأسف من الدول العظمى العربية في ذلك الوقت، لأن السعودية كانت دولة ناشئة ولا تحمل هذه المسؤولية. كانت العراق وسوريا ومصر، وطلبوا من السكان الأصليين الهجرة لأنهم سيقومون بحرب سحق اليهود والإسرائيليين في دولتهم المنشأة،
ورميهم في البحر.
وكان موقف الملك عبد العزيز رحمه الله رافضا. كان الملك عبد العزيز يقول لهم لا تنزعوا الناس من بلادهم، إلا أنهم رفضوه وطلبوا من السكان الفلسطينيين الهجرة، وحصلت الهجرة التي بسببها اليوم يوجد هناك نازحون في العالم العربي.
ووقوع الفلسطينيين أنفسهم في الأزمات العربية نفسها، يعني
صح.
لا تكاد الآن تستثني، نعم لا تكاد الآن تستثني دولة واحدة، دولة عربية واحدة ليس لها ذكريات سيئة مع الفلسطينيين. لماذا؟ لأنهم يعني طرحوا أنفسهم كطرف في قضايا عربية كثيرة. يعني كلنا نذكر إحنا موقفهم وقت غزو صدام للكويت، دخلوا كطرف. أيضا أيلول الأسود في الأردن على سبيل المثال.
كل هذه الجماعات، كل هذه الأنظمة، كل هذه الأحزاب على مدى 70 80 100 سنة من تاريخ العالم العربي الحديث كلها تاجرت بالقضية الفلسطينية وجعلتها هي الشماعة التي تحملها كل أخطائها، لأن هناك إما أهداف مالية أو أهداف يعني بقاء أو شرعية كما تفضلت. لكن أريد الحقيقة أن أذكر الإخوة الفلسطينيين الذين ثاروا علينا بلا مبرر والذين ظلمونا بلا مبرر أن يعني لماذا يريدون أن تدفع المملكة العربية السعودية ثمن أخطاء آبائهم وأجدادهم وقياداتهم على مدى 100 سنة؟
You're proving my point because you're even disputing the idea that it's occupied territory or settlements. The entire international community, with the exception of the Netanyahu government, thinks it is.
But absolutely I'm disputing that. How long have Americans been living in America?
How long have Americans been living in America?
That's correct, a few hundred years. How long have Jews been living in the Holy Land? 4,000 years. So how dare anyone call the land of Israel occupied territory?
Good evening. Thank you very much. I speak to you today as a lifelong supporter and true friend of Israel. I'm a newcomer to politics, but not to backing the Jewish state. In 2001, weeks after the attacks on New York City and on Washington, and frankly, the attacks on all of us, attacks that they were perpetrated by the Islamic fundamentalists, Mayor Rudy Giuliani visited Israel to show solidarity with terror victims. I sent my plane because I backed the mission for Israel 100%. In spring of 2004, at the height of the violence in the Gaza Strip, I was the Grand Marshal of the 40th Salute to Israel Parade, the largest single gathering in support of the Jewish state. It was a very dangerous time for Israel and, frankly, for anyone supporting Israel. Many people turned down this honor. I did not. I took the risk, and I'm glad I did. But I didn't come here tonight to pander to you about Israel. That's what politicians do. All talk, no action, believe me. I came here to speak to you about where I stand on the future of American relations with our strategic ally, our unbreakable friendship, and our cultural brother, the only democracy in the Middle East, the State of Israel. Thank you. My number one priority is to dismantle the disastrous deal with Iran. Thank you. Thank you. I have been in business a long time. I know deal making. And let me tell you, this deal is catastrophic for America, for Israel, and for the whole of the Middle East. The problem here is fundamental. We've rewarded the world's leading state sponsor of terror with $150 billion, and we received absolutely nothing in return. I've studied this issue in great detail, I would say actually greater by far than anybody else. Believe me. Oh, believe me. And it's a bad deal. The biggest concern with the deal is not necessarily that Iran is going to violate it, because already, as you know, it has. The bigger problem is that they can keep the terms and still get the bomb by simply running out the clock. And of course, they'll keep the billions and billions of dollars that we so stupidly and foolishly gave them. The deal doesn't even require Iran to dismantle its military nuclear capability. Yes, it places limits on its military nuclear program for only a certain number of years. But when those restrictions expire, Iran will have an industrial-sized military nuclear capability ready to go and with zero provision for delay, no matter how bad Iran's behavior is. Terrible, terrible situation that we are all placed in, and especially Israel. When I'm president, I will adopt a strategy that focuses on three things when it comes to Iran. First, we will stand up to Iran's aggressive push to destabilize and dominate the region. Iran is a very big problem and will continue to be. But if I'm not elected president, I know how to deal with trouble. And believe me, that's why I'm going to be elected president, folks. And we are leading in every poll. Remember that, please. Iran is a problem in Iraq, a problem in Syria, a problem in Lebanon, a problem in Yemen, and will be a very, very major problem for Saudi Arabia. Literally every day, Iran provides more and better weapons to support their puppet states. Hezbollah, Lebanon, received, and I'll tell you what, it has received sophisticated anti-ship weapons, anti-aircraft weapons, and GPS systems and rockets like very few people anywhere in the world, and certainly very few countries have. Now they're in Syria trying to establish another front against Israel from the Syrian side of the Golan Heights. In Gaza, Iran is supporting Hamas and Islamic Jihad. And in the West Bank, they're openly offering Palestinians $7,000 per terror attack and $30,000 for every Palestinian terrorist home that's been destroyed. A deplorable, deplorable situation. Iran is financing military forces throughout the Middle East, and it's absolutely incredible that we handed them over $150 billion to do even more toward the many horrible acts of terror. Secondly, we will totally dismantle Iran's global terror network, which is big and powerful, but not powerful like us. Iran has seeded terror groups all over the world. During the last 5 years, Iran has perpetuated terror attacks in 25 different countries on 5 continents. They've got terror cells everywhere, including in the Western Hemisphere, very close to home. Iran is the biggest sponsor of terrorism around the world, and we will work to dismantle that reach. Believe me, believe me. Third, at the very least, we must enforce the terms of the previous deal to hold Iran totally accountable, and we will enforce it like you've never seen a contract enforced before, folks. Believe me. Iran has already, since the deal is in place, test-fired ballistic missiles 3 times. Those ballistic missiles, with a range of 1,250 miles, were designed to intimidate not only Israel, which is only 600 miles away, but also intended to frighten Europe and someday maybe hit even the United States. And we're not going to let that happen. We're not letting it happen, and we're not letting it happen to Israel, believe me. Thank you. Thank you. Do you want to hear something really shocking? As many of the great people in this room know, painted on those missiles in both Hebrew and Farsi were the words, "Israel must be wiped off the face of the earth." You can forget that. What kind of demented minds write that in Hebrew? And here's another. You talk about twisted. Here's another twisted part. Testing these missiles does not even violate the horrible deal that we've made. The deal is silent on test missiles. But those tests do violate the United Nations Security Council resolutions. The problem is no one has done anything about it. We will, I promise we will. Thank you. Which brings me to my next point, the utter weakness and incompetence of the United Nations. The United Nations is not a friend of democracy. It's not a friend to freedom. It's not a friend even to the United States of America, where, as you know, it has its home. And it surely is not a friend to Israel. With President Obama in his final year, yay! He may be the worst thing to ever happen to Israel, believe me. Believe me. And you know it, and you know it better than anybody. So with the president in his final year, discussions have been swirling about an attempt to bring a Security Council resolution on terms of an eventual agreement between Israel and Palestine. Let me be clear. An agreement imposed by the United Nations would be a total and complete disaster. The United States must oppose this resolution and use the power of our veto, which I will use as president 100%. When people ask why, it's because that's not how you make a deal. Deals are made when parties come together. They come to a table and they negotiate. Each side must give up something. It's values. I mean, we have to do something where there's value in exchange for something that it requires. That's what a deal is. A deal is really something that when we impose it on Israel and Palestine, we bring together a group of people that come up with something that's not going to happen with the United Nations. It will only further, very importantly, it will only further delegitimize Israel. It will be a catastrophe and a disaster for Israel. It's not going to happen, folks. And further, it would reward Palestinian terrorism because every day they're stabbing Israelis and even Americans. Just last week, American Taylor Allen Force, a West Point grad, phenomenal young person who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, was murdered in the street by a knife-wielding Palestinian. You don't reward behavior like that. You cannot do it. There's only one way you treat that kind of behavior. You have to confront it. So it's not up to the United Nations to really go with a solution. It's really the parties that must negotiate a resolution themselves. They have no choice. They have to do it themselves, or it will never hold up anyway. The United States can be useful as a facilitator of negotiations, but no one should be telling Israel that it must be, and really that it must abide by some agreement made by others thousands of miles away that don't even really know what's happening to Israel, to anything in the area. It's so preposterous. We're not going to let that happen. When I'm president, believe me, I will veto any attempt by the UN to impose its will on the Jewish state. It will be vetoed 100%. You see, I know about deal making. That's what I do. I wrote The Art of the Deal. One of the best-selling all-time, and I mean seriously, I'm saying one of because I'll be criticized as I say the, so I'm going to be very diplomatic. One of, I'll be criticized. I think it is number one, but why take a chance? One of the all-time best-selling books about deals and deal-making. To make a great deal, you need two willing participants. We know Israel is willing to deal. Israel has been trying. That's right. Israel has been trying to sit down at the negotiating table without preconditions for years. You had Camp David in 2000, where Prime Minister Barak made an incredible offer, maybe even too generous. Arafat rejected it. In 2008, Prime Minister Omer made an equally generous offer. The Palestinian Authority rejected it also. Then John Kerry tried to come up with a framework, and Abbas didn't even respond, not even to the Secretary of State of the United States of America. They didn't even respond. When I become president, the days of treating Israel like a second-class citizen will end on day one. Thank you. And when I say something, I mean it. I mean it. I will meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu immediately. I have known him for many years and will be able to work closely together to help bring stability and peace to Israel and to the entire region. Meanwhile, every single day you have rampant incitement and children being taught to hate Israel and to hate the Jews. It has to stop. When you live in a society where the firefighters are the heroes, little kids want to be firefighters. When you live in a society where athletes and movie stars are the heroes, little kids want to be athletes and movie stars. In Palestinian society, the heroes are those who murder Jews. We can't let this continue. We can't let this happen any longer. You cannot achieve peace if terrorists are treated as martyrs. Glorifying terrorists is a tremendous barrier to peace. It is a horrible, horrible way to think. It's a barrier that can't be broken. That will end, and it'll end soon, believe me. In Palestinian textbooks and mosques, you've got a culture of hatred that has been fermenting there for years, and if we want to achieve peace, they've got to go out and they've got to start this educational process. They have to end education of hatred. They have to end it, and now. There is no moral equivalency. Israel does not name public squares after terrorists. Israel does not pay its children to stab random Palestinians. You see, what President Obama gets wrong about deal-making is that he constantly applies pressure to our friends and rewards our enemies. And you see that happening all the time. That pattern practiced by the president and his administration, including former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who is a total disaster, by the way. She and President Obama have treated Israel very, very badly. But it's repeated itself over and over again and has done nothing to embolden those who hate America. We saw that with releasing the $150 billion to Iran in the hope that they would magically join the world community. It didn't happen. President Obama thinks that applying pressure to Israel will force the issue, but it's precisely the opposite that happens. Already, half of the population of Palestine has been taken over by the Palestinian ISIS in Hamas, and the other half refuses to confront the first half, so it's a very difficult situation that's never going to get solved unless you have great leadership right here in the United States. We'll get it solved one way or the other. We will get it solved. But when the United States stands with Israel, the chances of peace really rise, and rises exponentially. That's what will happen when Donald Trump is president of the United States. We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem. And we will send a clear signal that there is no daylight between America and our most reliable ally, the State of Israel. The Palestinians must come to the table knowing that the bond between the United States and Israel is absolutely, totally unbreakable. They must come to the table willing and able to stop the terror being committed on a daily basis against Israel. They must do that. And they must come to the table willing to accept that Israel is a Jewish state and it will forever exist as a Jewish state. I love the people in this room. I love Israel. I love Israel. I've been with Israel so long in terms of I've received some of my greatest honors from Israel. My father before me, incredible. My daughter Ivanka is about to have a beautiful Jewish baby. In fact, it could be happening right now, which would be very nice as far as I'm concerned. So I want to thank you very much. This has been a truly great honor. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey, y'all. So I'm sitting there watching my TV, minding my business the other day, getting prepared for the new year. And I know that something went down with Israel because I saw Carrie on TV talking about them. Now, I'm not quite sure as to what went down, but I do know that Carrie must be slipping in all of that Heinz ketchup. Because he tripping. Let me tell you something. Israel is our ally. So that means we have to have their backs. I don't care if they back is small and our backs are big. We still got to have their back, period. Oh, but you got Obama. You know, Obama looked like he may be out of touch. He was out of touch with this election. He was out of touch with the American people. And now he is out of touch with Israel. And if he's not careful, somebody will end up stabbing Israel in the back. And we can't let that happen. Listen, Israel is our allies. That means we are supposed to scratch each other back. Have each other back. And guess what? We stand with Israel. We will always have their back.
שמי שרה זובי, ערבייה, מוסלמית, ישראלית, ציונית, גאה, מאמינה בזכות העם היהודי שיהיה לו מדינה משלו בארץ הקודש, ארץ ישראל. זה בזכות ולא חסד. אני נמצאת פה עם רעלה במקום קדוש לעם ישראל, ואין אף אחד שמתנגד שאני נמצאת פה כמדינת ישראל ועם יהודי מכבדים את כל אחד בלי שום קשר, בלי הבדל גזע, דת או צבע. והם לא מגבילים אף אחד להיכנס למקום שכל היהודים מתפללים פה. כל אחד יכול לבקר ולהתרגש מהמקום הנפלא הזה. תודה רבה לכם, ועם ישראל חי וקיים.
المحاضر في شؤون الشرق الأوسط عبر إيلان. مرحبا بك دكتور أدي. يعني محاولات الطعن التي تجري وأيضا إطلاق الرصاص من قبل الإسرائيليين، طبعا هذا ربما بأمر من وزارة الداخلية أو التعليمات العسكرية بالنسبة لهم، ولكن ليس هناك قدرة واضحة على السيطرة على هذا الأمر. ما هي المخارج التي تبحث عنها إسرائيل لتغيير الوضع؟
أولا أنا أتحفظ على كلماتكم وكلمة مراسلاتكم ما يسمى محاولات طعن أو محاولات طعن بعيون إسرائيلية. سيدتي الكريمة، كفى استخفاف بعيون المشاهدين العرب. هذه الطعن، هذه سكين وكفى الاستخفاف. لماذا تشوهون الحقيقة؟ هذا أولا. ثانيا، كل من يحاول طعن مدني سوف ينال عقابه، وعقابه هو الموت. إنهم يريدون أن يكونوا شهداء، نحن نسمع ذلك صباحا ومساء. تفضلوا روحوا على الجنة.
طيب دكتور
يعني 72 امرأة هناك.
كبي بي سي وكمذيعة في بي بي سي لا نشوه أي حقائق. أنت هنا موجود لعرض وجهة النظر الإسرائيلية.
أتمنى ذلك.